Hey everybody, Dave here, and I'm going to do two things today with the modeling. I'll do it as two separate videos though. First thing here, I can actually throw some details on this ready-made assembled lumber mill. And the only thing I really want to mention here is there was a sign on the top of the name of the lumber company. I wanted a different name, so I tried very carefully taking that detail off. It didn't come off very well. Left a lot of glue behind. And same with the decal on the front. It was a giant no smoking sign that was probably a scale 3 feet tall, and that just didn't sit well with me. So as a result of that, I tried getting some naphtha and some gum out, or gunk off, whatever that product is that you use for taking crayons off of walls. Couldn't get it off. The only thing I could think of to take it off would also melt the plastic. So I'm going to be throwing some details on this part here, and kind of doing some different weathering techniques from what I showed you last time. And also using some Testors Dull Coat on this, but we'll do that after we get the weathering on here. I'm just going to have to make a large sign to put on the roof to cover that up myself, so we'll see how that goes. I will put it on with something more easily removable though, in case I do change my mind. That there, but also for my little lumber mill that's going to be on my layout, I have this lumber shed that I want to put with it, and it's a kit. So I haven't actually put a kit together in years, so you're gonna watch me doing that. And I'm gonna jump in now because this is part one of this video here, and I'm gonna show you the kit here. Now I've already hit these brown parts. As you can see, they're not very shiny, and these white parts which represent lumber, and this is lumber, lumber with door details, with some dull coat. The only thing I haven't touched yet is this is the roof and this is the base. And I'm going to use some of those techniques I used in the other detailing video of dry brushing to put some details on the roof. And I'm not going to make you watch that. So we're going to cut that out of the video. But also make sure before you do anything, always read the instructions. Okay? And very pictorial descriptions here, not a bad thing here. Tools you're going to need to do this, very simple. File, very handy. Some paint brushes for some detailing. I like the Testors liquid cement, plastic cement. We'll see how that goes on. Some sandpaper and a scrap of wood, because sometimes you put the part down and you just give it a rub. Okay, so I'm going to get started here dry brushing some brown paint onto these details here, and we'll take it from there. Oh, did I mention you need X-Acto knives? Yeah, buy X-Acto knives and you'll see why after. If I already mentioned that, forgive me. You're going to have to listen to me say it twice. I'm back again shooting, and got a little bit ahead of you. I started breaking some of these pieces off the sprue and putting some of these really delicate pieces together. You missed some colorful metaphors. Very delicate model, maybe not a good first off the bat model for somebody. I know I used to be good at this and I'm feeling really rusty about it. But I can show you some techniques here. First thing here is these parts are on what's called the sprue. And when they make a mold, I actually used to build injection molds for a living. They shoot the plastic in right here, and it goes to all these little pieces, and these round areas here, the runners in the mold, and plastic shoots in these little cavities. Problem is, they stick on where the little gates are that let the plastic get to different areas. A lot of people are very tempted, I know I would be tempted, to just twist them off. That's bad because you might break the piece, it leaves a little bit here. They make little nippers for doing this, but I never use little nippers. I always grab an X-Acto knife. By the way, I really prefer the name brand X-Actos. They seem to have a little more heft, a little more niceness to them. And I know here that I broke off piece number 2.6 off my part. I need part 2.5 and 2.7. And I'm just going to come in and slice them off the X-Acto knife. Hope you guys can see that. Alright. Now, at the very tops of these areas here, right where they were broken off, they leave a little bit of plastic behind that you probably can't see too well. And if it's a big enough piece, just take the knife and carefully do that without slicing your finger into it. It still leaves a little bit of a nub. On the ends there. And these are some of these pieces are very delicate and actually a real pain to glue because of that. And I'll show you a little glue technique. And I actually jumped ahead in my steps here. You're not supposed to put this on the base until you're several steps in, but I was I needed that extra support, so that's why that ended up there. Now, I'm going to take a file. It's a very fine mill cut file. They say don't use the same file for plastic and metal. You get metal shavings in your part. I never really experienced this. This is just a file from my machinist toolbox, and you can see I've worn out some of the teeth in different spots. But they make something called a file card for cleaning files. Get one, and you can clean all most of the metal out, any metal that's going to affect anything anyways, in my humble opinion. But you know what? Files are cheap. So, there. Now I'm looking at my part. I have these impossible to glue together pieces. Put this kind of will go in there, I believe, and that will fit like that. There's no real clip or anything to get here to get that to happen. So what I could do, cheat a little bit, is glue one of these in, and then maybe glue the other one in. Figure out which way around that needs to go. Getting that the pictures are important here. And then maybe put this piece between them. Like so. Kind of got to get creative here. I'm going to cut a whole bunch of this out and show you my next little technique here once I figure out exactly what I want to do. There's only one chance to get this right, as much as that may worry some people or freak them out. Just be careful following the picture and you should be okay. I'm actually planning ahead now in my mind the next step I'm going to do before the roofs go on, and then all the little detail parts go on after that. We're going to do this. I'm going to come in with some plastic cement. I usually like to do a little bit of a different technique that I hopefully can tell you about. I usually like to hold the two pieces together and just let capillary action with the brush bring it in. I'm not going to be able to do this here because I'm going to need two hands to hold this piece, but put on some plastic cement. Double check that I'm doing this right. I'm counting to about 30, 40 in my head. Alright, that's on. Now I get that tacked on, I'll take this here and just put a little dab on the inside. Let that capillary action go to work. Count some more. Having done this in HO scale, I will say buildings are a little more beefier, maybe a little easier to do. You know, I'm not that old and my motor skills are still pretty good, but I'm really liking those pre-built structures right now. Though I was able to do some extra details like the dry brushing and brushing on some little bit of brown paint on these tiles that are still on the sprue makes doing that kind of work a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about getting paint on all the other details that you saw in that other video I did. So here, let's unglue that from my hand. Stand that up on edge. Do that same thing right there. The good thing with this sort of like pole barn structure here in the shed is, having seen a lot of these in real life, they're not exactly the most precision built buildings. They tend to be hobbled together out of scrap wood that some farmer or lumberyard had. So if it's not perfect, not the end of the world. Let's put that dab of glue in there in the middle. And then I'll hit this with a little bit of Testors Dull Coat, because that's really good in some areas where glue makes little shiny spots. So if I have anything really obvious, I might hit it up there. This little base here is really handy for assembly, and I'm going to keep it, but when I put on the layout, I'm probably going to throw some ground foam on it, some glue to keep that up, so I wouldn't want to assemble this model without it, because it's a lot of little details here. So I'm going to actually pull out a couple, my next little group of pieces here off the mold and get them ready here. So I'm going to mention something on this piece here called flash. And that's where bits of plastic flash out from the edges of the mold. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. And what I'm going to do is just try to come in there with a knife and just slice that flash right off, and I was able to get that. So I can tell the Model Power is a German company. I can tell they spent a lot of money building some very nice molds to do this. Their molds aren't, their kits are not that expensive, so. Making a little command decision here on the very edges. How bad or good do they look? And do I want to hit them with some paint? What I'm going to do is take some sandpaper to this edge here and just make it even. Alright, even here. And I'm going to hit that edge with some paint. And I'm just sort of hitting the edges so it looks a little more even. Not painted a masterpiece. I am by no means a master modeler here. So don't, so you'll pick up techniques and things as you get along and get better at this. But rest assured, if I with my limited motor skills can do this, so can you. Well, I'd say it looks a bit like that. Looks a lot like a pole barn. A lumber shed. A little bit of a lean to it. That's not bad. Like I said, that's reality in rural New England. And trying to put some of these details on. I'm gonna take a break from filming and put these lumber pallets together and see what we get. Okay, everybody, I'm actually going to get in close for some still pictures. But that's the completed model right there. And a lot of little accessories. I'm not quite sure how I could glue them down without taking the whole model apart. So I'm going to get in close and I'll just kind of stick them around that when that goes on the layout. Some of the pre-cut individual pieces of wood, I actually might get some cocktail toothpicks and cut them up a little bit. And you also see here the logs that go on that model. I've actually brushed kind of that brownish rust color. Maybe I'll dry brush another layer of color on that after, just to... lumber when it's cut can be a bright white color like that was, but the bark is rarely white unless you're cutting down birch trees. So let me throw some still pictures in this, and look forward to seeing you in my next video.